Welcome, everybody. We'll give it a second here. Of course, when you're trying to do something live, you have technical difficulties, and that is my life. And so, uh, literally just got my sound system working here, but um, hope that everyone is able to join. Is popping up. Um, we really wanted to kind of bring this topic to everyone and have a conversation about making TimeZest a standard in your processes. And really, there's this disconnect between, turning on a new product and then actually making, using it, right? And we want to make sure that you guys are getting the return on investment. And so today, for the first time, we have Andrew, who has taken on a new role here at TimeZest. And so I really wanted him to join so everyone could get to know him if you haven't met him yet. But he's now our designated account manager, which is really exciting. We've needed we've needed that for a while. So welcome, Andrew, to our monthly webinar, our office
Yeah,
hours.
thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here and first one here, so I'm excited to work it with you. And then, yeah, it's been a great process at TimeZest, working on the sales team, and starting with the outbound of getting potential customers to working with many of the MSPs that are currently partners with us, to now being able to, like you said, continue the process of utilizing TimeZest daily to maximize usage and save you time and efficiencies and return on your investment. So glad to step into the new position and be able to help our current partners every day.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We love to work with you guys hand in hand and make sure that you're getting the most, like I said, out of your investment in TimeZest. It's not just a monetary investment, it's a time and energy investment as well, right? So, Andrew and I are, here if you guys want to go over your systems and you want to, do a system review with us. I do recommend doing them, 1 to 2 times a year, to just kind of go over what maybe you've missed in a feature request or a feature release. And so it's a good thing to kind of meet up with us and do that. And you can reach out to help@timezest.com or the little chat bot and just say, hey, I'd like to schedule a system review, and our team will work with you to get that scheduled with us. As always, when we do these, we have at the end, an open Q&A, where it doesn't have to be on topic. You can bring your TimeZest questions to us, and we will do our best to answer them. And this is recorded, and so it does get put onto our YouTube channel. So just a little maintenance there. So you can go there and you can see previous webinars that we've done over the years, as well as demos, all sorts of resources there, as well as the Help Center. If you haven't been on the Help Center, we've spent quite a few years just creating documentation and resources for you. So there's a lot there. And if you've ever held a call with me, Andrew has been on hundreds of calls with me. Right? He knows that I share documentation like candy at a parade, right? I'm just giving it out to everybody. And so I'm sticking with that theme. What I've done in this PowerPoint is you have QR codes that you can scan that go directly to the document that I'm kind of referencing. And so this topic is important not just for the new users, but it is really, it is important for new users. But we also have people who've turned on TimeZest and it's just kind of sitting there. And we want to give you the, the call to action to take a look at how you can strengthen your use of TimeZest within your team and get the value of why you brought it on board in the first place, right? So there was a reason you came looking. There's a reason why you took the time to set it up. We're all busy professionals. I'm working with, from owners to dispatchers, setting up TimeZest and squeezing out that time to set it up and get it going. We want to make sure you're working on it. So enough rambling. Let's go to the next thing. So, you know, if you've been on a call with me, you know I love how MSPs use TimeZest. It is my required reading. I think the company wide, the team company wide would share that with me. Um, that again, the QR codes top right hand corner, you can scan that and it'll go to it. So you can snag those while we're talking. But this is a great use case collection document. We've pulled our customers over the years and then all of our industry knowledge as well, combined to kind of give you resources. But TimeZest is not just for your service desk or your help desk, right? And we kind of started there. That was our strength and our core of where we started. But as we have progressed through the years, we've seen that there is real value across the board, right? So in all different teams and departments. And so I wanted to highlight, if you're only using it in one area of your business, look at what kind of meetings are being scheduled in other parts of your business. Andrew, you've had a lot of sales calls in the past. What are some things that you kind of see people having conversations about where they start and maybe kind of where they expand to? And what are some of those conversations that you have with people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, the service desk is our bread and butter, the way we like to say it. And being able to get your service team and your help desk set up to be able to, optimize sending out requests to the end user from your technicians, and being able to write to the PSA and be able to create those service calls is of great benefit. But like you mentioned, we've been working to also expand that out to our sales and account management, and being able to use what would be even panel scheduling for project kickoff calls or sales kickoff calls. And as you can see in the points that you've highlighted there, that there's multiple times when you get a new customer that needs to be onboarded, you're going to need multiple resources on that call. And may it be sales and a project manager, an engineer to help set it up. So it just makes sense to have all of your team be on TimeZest, because then you're able to use that panel scheduling to its full capability and have it reach across the different departments without you having to say, well, I'll send you that invite and then we're going to have to see if hopefully it fits in your schedule. We don't want that to happen. We want to make sure that everyone is available for that call and they're able to make it. And that's where you're seeing that difference in saving of time and creating those efficiencies for wanting to win in the margins, is where MSPs are really looking to strive at.
Yeah, it's, and because of the different integrations that we have, so we do have where we can go into your Office 365 or your Outlook calendar, and we have the online meetings such as Teams and Zoom. And then if you have one, that we're not using like WebEx, we have our custom attributes that we can build that out and make that work for you as well. As long as there's like a stagnant link, we can work with you on that. But those different areas or different integrations can help you with different areas and different, types of meetings that you might be scheduling. So something that I notice, I've been teaching TimeZest for a little while now, and I can see people getting kind of pigeonholed into thinking just a phone call or a Teams meeting. But you can also expand that thought process beyond just like this very basic view of it and be like, what are the offerings? What are we trying? What's the goal of the appointment, right? And then that, when it gets scheduled, you see what kind of meeting it is, and you have kind of a heads up of what's going on, right? So whether you're saying, okay, this is a demo or a new sales conversation, or whether this is a new hardware setup, or this is a quarterly business review, or it's an unattended session. So maybe your communication and using the custom email templates it sets expectations with the customer that this meeting, they don't have to attend it, but you're setting aside time to work on their issue, and you can set the expectation of what your follow-up will look like, right? And so using the custom email templates, you can really make it flexible to work in however works best for you, and setting things up for your customers. So I really want to just challenge you to think outside of the box, look at ways that you're using it today and ways that you can expand beyond that. Now, we've talked before, and if you get into there, you'll see some things about like QR codes. And I think that this is a really powerful way, but also simple, that you can use TimeZest. And we've gotten some really cool ideas from customers. One of my newest ones I got about 6 months ago, he took a shareable URL for a new, like a triage or show me the issue kind of appointment type, right? And he turned it into a QR code on the back of badges that the team was wearing on site. So if there was a little bit of scope creep going on while they were on site, they could say, hey, we want to look into this new issue for you. Go ahead and scan this. It'll schedule time for us to review this new issue. And so that allows your customer to feel like you're paying attention to what their issue is. You're addressing it. Even though it may not be resolved right now, you're addressing it, right? You're not just saying, hey, we don't have time to deal with that. Call in later and we'll deal with it. You're setting aside time to do it, and then your tech can get back to work, right? But we've also put them on our business cards, and we've had people put them on new hardware packing slips, so that when customers get new hardware, they can scan it and schedule a new hardware setup call. So really kind of get creative with it and think outside the box. And I think you'll find some more ways to kind of implement it within your business.
Yeah, and I think when you mentioned earlier, like, we're always available to meet with you. And I think one of the most important things that we can provide, and like you just mentioned, is we speak to MSPs every single day. And that, article of how MSPs use TimeZest, that's only a small layer of all the conversations that we're having every single day with these MSPs, that you're more than welcome to ask us, hey, how are people using TimeZest? And these little use cases are super pertinent to different, MSPs and how they're running their business and getting better at that. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you have an idea where you're like, hey, has someone else done this? This is kind of the hole I'm seeing. How do we solve for it? Feel free to schedule time with us and run it by us. We've talked to people that have done it, right? So most likely, or we can reach out to the team and kind of put all our heads together, which we do all the time, where we're like, if my customer has this issue, how can we solve it? So, this next point I really wanted to bring up is the customer experience, right? So if, we could talk about saving time, saving your business time, saving your text time, which time is money. But I think the more important value proposition in this is, what is your customer experience, right? Are they able to engage with you in a way that builds trust, that is consistent, or is every interaction with someone on your team different, right? And I'm not saying like a different way of handling it, but maybe one person's using bookings, one person's using Calendly, another team is using TimeZest. Someone's manually scheduling out, right? Where they're saying, hey, I have these three openings, which works best for you. That can create friction, right? That can create a pain point in engaging with you, or insert sarcasm. My favorite is when they call and are like, hey, call me back. And then your client's sitting on hold and being transferred and trying to get back to the correct person. That is a whole frustration point in. Like, I don't have time to sit, to call or play phone tag and try to get back. I need to address it right away. And so when you're using TimeZest in these different engagements throughout the different teams, your customer experience becomes very consistent. It becomes clean, it's expected. And we've seen where your clients actually they expect that. They're like, just send me the TimeZest, right? It makes it easy to schedule. They're not having to play this ping pong or this back and forth or phone tag. It just really makes it easy to engage with your team. And you're showing the real availability of your team, right? So if you're only sending them a couple time slot options when you're manually trying to schedule with them, that's their impression of your availability. That's their impression of whether that's good or bad, right? So maybe it's, there's like, oh, they have more availability this week than I thought, or they actually see how busy you guys are and that you're not trying to blow them off. You are working on things and you're trying to get them in, but you are busy, right? So it's giving them a real-time view of your calendars. Andrew, have you've had these conversations as well. Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think early on when TimeZest, was brought about, it was more looking to be able to help what would be, the MSP side of things. But we quickly found out that the customer experience greatly benefited from it, and really just echo all the things that you just said, that I think the customer experience is invaluable. And if you're able to benefit your processes with efficiencies and not having to do the back and forth and chase down your customer for an issue that they're having, you just send them the link. Once they get accustomed to that, they're going to be asking for it every time, because they know that they don't have to be waiting around their phone or waiting for an email to show up to figure out what a time is and go back and forth. They can just see, hey, I've got that link, I can add it to my calendar, and then be able to just show up for that meeting. So once you create kind of that connection between you and your customer of TimeZest is the way that we're going to schedule moving forward, it's an overall better experience on your end and on the customer's end.
Absolutely. And there's ways to kind of get ahead of it as well. So we have like our URL based scheduling link that you can embed in, your automated emails that go out through your, through your PSA. So you can say, okay, you can schedule this right away, right? So you're not putting any barriers in the way. I've also seen where maybe they're calling in and they're getting your dispatch or your triage, and the time to work on it needs to be scheduled. You can schedule it for them while you're on the phone with them, right? Which takes away another layer of friction in trying to get them scheduled with your team. So just some ways to kind of look at it from the customer experience side of it. There is a QR code there that goes to our blog. We talk all about this and the customer experience. And so I hope you'll check out that document. Okay, so the gap between being bought and used, right? And that was kind of the main, what we're talking about here is how do we get it from we've bought this product, we are now wanting our team to make it part of their processes. And I think this is always something important to kind of highlight. It can be easy to miss and not give it the attention that you need, but the human condition is the biggest challenge, right? The change is hard. People, even
Absolutely.
if the way they're doing things makes work harder for them and they just don't realize it, changing and doing something new is scary. It's hard. You're going to have those people who are your internal champions, who are going to be quick learners, who love new technology, who love new processes, and they're always looking for the way to make things go, easier, faster, bigger, better, faster, right? And then you have those who are like, it works. I have control over what's going on. And I don't really need, to put a spoon in my blender, right? So I wanted to kind of bring this issue to light. So who your stuck in their ways technicians are, and who your fast adopters are. And it's kind of bridging this gap between them and kind of bringing everyone on board is what I really wanted to highlight. So this article that I linked here is Working with TimeZest, a practical guide for daily use. This goes over, different sections of the team, how to kind of work it into their processes. But I challenge you to evaluate this as the leader coming into this and have some thought leadership with your team as well of where do we hit these friction points in our engagements with our customers, right? Where are our first touches with our customers? Is TimeZest a better fit, right? So a common process that we hear is a new ticket gets dispatched to a technician and the technician calls the customer, right? So this is a cold call, right? Even though they know it's going to come at some point, this is a cold call. I don't know about you. I don't have time for cold calls.
I don't think anyone does these days.
I want to know what we're talking about when we're
Exactly.
before. Look at it as a cold call, right? And if they don't have time to go through the issue right then and there, be prepared for that. Understand that that is a real, it's not all about your text time frame and their need and their to-do list. Your client also has their own time schedule, their own needs and to-do lists. And so respecting that relationship is really important. So if they don't have time to take the call right then, it should be a low pressure of like, okay, we're going to send you a TimeZest, or you can even open it up while you're on the phone with them and say, hey, when would you like to work it? Tomorrow we have this time and this time available. And then you can select the times for them and it sends them the confirmation email with the calendar invite and everything attached and your ticket updates as normal, right? So you're removing that friction point. Look at your processes today. Where are they? And how can you insert TimeZest? And I would document it. I would really, write it down and make it part of your onboarding of your team. What have you seen, Andrew?
Yeah, I think one of the best feedbacks that I get when we add a new customer to TimeZest is the reduction in phone calls that they start getting at the help desk. And I think that just shows, like you were saying, that once your customer knows that they can, quickly send an email, create the ticket, or make a phone call, and like you said, schedule it from there, the amount of inbound calls that they're getting for support will go down because the customer knows they can do this in an expedited way, which then allows for the technicians to have a better grasp of what their daily work is, because they'll be able to look at their calendar and go into Calendar HQ and be able to see what time they have dedicated for meetings and not have to be constantly scattering because they have phone calls coming in and appointments and so on and so forth. So I think hearing that feedback from customers is always one of the best feelings of them being able to have a better understanding of what their daily schedule looks like because of TimeZest.
Yeah. So just more going into this standardization, right, and making it a part of the processes. And then it becomes, the light of the day, right? You can see where you are. You can have some somewhat of an expectation of how things are going to go. Obviously, in this industry, fires happen. So I just have to point out the obvious. Not only outlining when to use TimeZest, but also when not to use TimeZest. It's equally as important. So if their email is down, we're not sending them an email to schedule time, right? If the computer is on fire, we're not sending them TimeZest, right? So being really clear about when and when not to use it is really important to kind of set this standardization through the team. Why teams revert, or why they kind of push back and have resistance. I mentioned the first thing was, this change is hard, right? That's the initial introduction of something new. And if it's not pushed through and found out the core reasons of why someone is feeling like this is a new thing they don't need, there's some underlying reasons to that, right? And so I want to challenge you, if you have someone who's kind of pushing back to doing it or isn't adopting it, look below the surface and see what is their reasoning and what can be solved for it, right? So loss of control. I've heard this one before. I've heard it from dispatchers, right? They feel like I have control. I know what's going on all the time. And that is true, but there's also a point where you need to let go of the low-hanging fruit so you can really prioritize the important things that you need to do, and you can start moving the chess pieces and being, really putting your time to where it matters for the team. And sending off a bunch of scheduling links is busy work, right? So it feels productive because it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of attention going through and looking at everyone's calendars, seeing who's the best fit, who has, when I was a dispatcher a decade ago, it was like I knew who could take what, right? I had in my mental category of everybody, this little mental Rolodex, who could do what the best. And then I would go through and try to match that. Well, you can standardize that with TimeZest. You can use team scheduling. I see the default people try to do, one big team of like help desk or their service desk. You can break it up by tier level. You can break it up by specialty, territory, how pods, I've seen them go, pod purple, pod Batman, however you guys break up your teams and your resources. Feel free to play around with the teams and see how that can help your dispatchers take that mental load and actually document it out. And that makes it so it becomes faster, but also if your dispatcher's out, you have a service manager that can very easily go in there and say, oh, this needs to go to tier 1, right? Or this can go to, territory west. And it really simplifies and standardizes that process. Something else that I see is, the cog in the machine. So we see kind of this burnout where meetings are back to back and back to 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 back, right? I've seen some calendars. I'm like, I couldn't even focus if that was my calendar. And it is necessary in some cases, right? These are tickets that just need to be worked on in between meetings. We get that. We understand that. But your meetings themselves need to have some standardization to them, some buffers between them. I am a big advocate for making sure you have buffers on both sides so that if there's wiggle room, sometimes they run long. You need to be able to put notes in the ticket and get it pushed through before you've got to take on your next call. And you can always, if it ends a little early, there are those stacks of tickets, I've seen them, that can be, worked on in between calls, right? So there's some flexibility, that can be put in there to make sure. We also have the custom availability. So in your PSA, you have your standard shift for your resources. So maybe they work 8 to 5, but then you can go into TimeZest and say, okay, we want them to have an hour at the end of the day to get all their admin work done, make sure their timesheets are done, make sure their tickets are all updated, and they have a standard lunch at this time. You can dictate that within there. And that can help with some of those resources who feel like they have a loss of control. And then the last point on here is, dictating from above and not actually getting feedback. So I really encourage you to do, lunch and learns, pull in your team, what's working, what's not working. You might find you thought you had a 1 hour minimum notice on an appointment type, and they're like, no, it's actually popping up randomly, and you go in there and you had 1 minute, right? I've seen it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So hear from them what's going on, what's working, what's not, and then you can make adjustments. Anything there, Andrew?
Yeah. So I'm currently at Kaseya Connect here in Las Vegas. So if anyone watching is here, stop by our booth. I was actually talking to a customer yesterday, and just really just having a conversation about, hey, what appointment types do you currently have? And I think why you said it's important to set up a system review every 6 months is they currently had, 1 or 2 appointment types that were just 1 hour and 30 minutes, and they had the same minimum notice or the same availability on both of them. And it's important to say, well, there's multiple times when you might need to have an appointment set for 1 hour from now, a day from now, or next week. And these are all things that minimum notice can help with, because some things need to be prioritized to get it scheduled as soon as possible. It can be scheduled, later today or even tomorrow. And these are all things that TimeZest can help you control. And that dispatcher is that dispatcher is going to be that chess master that's going to be in charge of making all of these moves that can really make a difference in that customer experience, your technician's experience, and the overall.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope you guys will take a look at this, and take a look at your team and just be methodical about it, and really look at the issue underlying the lack of adoption, if you're seeing that in some of your resources. And then we have the article there, which is overcoming teams' resistance to TimeZest. I actually think we did a specific webinar directly at that years ago. That's probably back on YouTube. So if you want to, if you have an extra hour, it's in there somewhere. So now I reference it, but yeah, we've talked about this before. Yep. So I want to kind of just lay out this steps, right? So we're going to set the stage. We're going to make sure that you're setting up your system, you're making sure you're testing it, and it's working well. And then you're going to define internally your purpose, your expectations, what your goal is for it. Find those champions. You know who they are. You know who your early adopters are. You know who are, the tech geeks of your team who love, the new shiny things. So get them on board, get them, their opinion on things, and having them test it, and then empower them to encourage the team to do internal trainings with the team. I've seen people do competitions. You can use, if you're using, dashboards like BrightGauge, you can use that to kind of monitor what's going on. Provide role-based guidance. So, you can go in and do maybe a little, some role-based specific use cases, and just, hey, when you have this, use TimeZest in this way, and kind of lay that out for your team, and be specific about what kind of appointment types maybe your account management team needs versus your help desk, right? And making sure they have the tools they need to use it properly. And then just reinforce and optimize. So again, getting feedback from the team on how it's working, what is working, what isn't working. Ask your customers. If you have customers, who will give you that feedback, engage with them. Hey, how's this working for you? And that can be a point of conversation in your quarterly business review. How has your engagement with us been? What can improve there? What has it been like trying to schedule with us? Do you feel like we're meeting the mark there, right? And share that with the team, share what's working and go through and streamline that. So the document for this one is driving team adoption of TimeZest. So there's, I don't know, Andrew, we have documents throughout the years.
Yeah, so. Hey, I use them all the time, so that means they're great because I'm always constantly going through them and figuring it out. But to also reinforce that last fourth step that you have on there of tracking usage. I think one of my favorite things as well, talking to customers, is the customer that they're having, the MSP's customer, will also, you know, have them be responsible for making sure that they're providing their service. But I think it's fair enough for the MSP to say, hey, we're sending you the TimeZest link. And it's also, your responsibility for being able to schedule that time and being able to meet with us. So I always find it great to hear that MSPs can say, well, we can, as much as our customers keeping us responsible, we can also look at that metric system inside of the TimeZest app, and then also be able to provide, their own QBR metrics to their customers.
Yeah, and I there's this term and desire of white glove service, right? That we hear over and over again, and it's fantastic. Providing the best experience you can is invaluable, but there's a balance to anything that you do, right? And so I think when you're onboarding new customers, really driving home like, hey, this is the tool that we're bringing to make sure you can get on, the schedule with our team, and that we're intentional. Your piece of this is making sure that you answer schedule the time, right? So if we send you time to schedule, we've evaluated that we need that time. So please, respond and give them some responsibility in this relationship. So it is a relationship between you and your customers, and you cannot chase them forever, right? And I've seen a lot of MSPs think that is white glove service, to chase their customers over and over again.
Yep.
And you have to be able to, for sanity's sake, say, hey, we need you to actually engage with us as well, so we can address your issue, right? And I know everyone attending has had those that thought, at least, is like, help me help you, okay? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying that. It's like, hey, we want to help you. This is how we're doing it. All you have to do is schedule time with us, and we'll do our best to address this issues right away. Okay.
And if there's a golden nugget that you've given out today, it's using TimeZest as a selling piece to new customers. That is, like we've heard, we have, once again, another YouTube video or resource that we spoke to, one of our MSPs, that they use TimeZest as a selling point to every new potential customer. And it's just a great way to be able to say, well, how are you going to provide, a customer service that's different from other MSPs? And involving TimeZest in that scheduling step is crucial in getting new customers.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a great point to put on your onboarding of new customers. And like I said, quarterly business reviews as well. If you're going through and talking about your relationship with them, that's a good point to kind of put in there as well. So we're kind of flying through these right on schedule. I love it.
Perfect.
4 signals that adoption is real. So some things to kind of think about. I just threw these out here. When I'm doing calls with people, these are kind of the first step, right? So obviously we're not trying to hold you back. I want to see your numbers score above this, but this is the first step. What you want to see is your completion rate. I think we call it like the open to close rate now on the dashboard. I like to see that above 65%. That means that your customers are receiving the emails, they're opening the emails, and they're scheduling the appointments, right? So we have an open rate, and then we have this completion rate or open to close rate. I like to see that above 65%. And then the other metric to kind of keep an eye out for is what we internally, when we're looking at your account and the health of it, is we say, okay, are they scheduling at least 10 requests per user per month? That is the bottom of the good, right? So I want to see it up and higher than that. I love seeing one that's at like 20. You're getting a real return on investment. When you hit that number or higher, that's when we see your ROI skyrocket. Okay, so aim for that. That's not something unreasonable. You can say, hey, guys, we want to aim for 10 scheduling requests per month per every active license, okay? And with these, you're going to start seeing that appointment volume increase, if you're have this goal, and then your time to schedule will decrease. And that's when we start getting this ROI increasing. Christopher, I see your question. This webinar is available. All of our webinars are recorded. We have Alan in the background, who's our marketing guy, and he is the man behind the scene, and he will make sure it gets put onto our YouTube channel. And so you can go through that, and then all of the resources that I gave you guys QR codes for, those are also on the Help Center. If you go to the Help Center and you go to the Get Started Guides and Training, it is within there. There's a whole onboarding your team resources, and you can find all of the documents in there, except for the blog. That's on just the website. Shannon, great to see you. You always come every month. Appreciate your support, hon. So the stats, you can find the completion rate on the dashboard when you're in TimeZest. So you can find that. The scheduling requests, that's something that you would just see, how many are your team sending out. I should talk to engineering, and we can maybe see if we can start putting that in there. That would be a good one to see, dashboard. But I have the inside scoop. So if you ever want to go over, we get to look at it together, or Andrew can with you.
Absolutely.
But, Andrew, any last things that you would really like to share? And while he's doing that, I'd like everybody to put your questions in the comment section so we can go through any other comments or things that you would like us to discuss with you today.
Yeah. No, I think talking about, getting that completion rate up, I think, as many of you know, you're able to set reminders that TimeZest can automatically send out if your end user isn't scheduling a time. So there's always little things that we can, help add to your workflows to be able to say, hey, we can make sure that these automated responses are going out, that they're able to then, get a reminder to schedule time. So there's all these little things that we can help to also get this score up, and we can see it on our end as well. So feel free to reach out to us, see how we can help in these ways, and have a discussion about getting these scores up for you.
Yeah. And it's remarkable, all the little nuggets that we come across in these conversations. I think I've forgot more than I realized. But, just yesterday, I had someone reach out to me, and I think this is a great thing for you guys to kind of think about, is she was like, hey, we have this pain point, our account managers, they have tickets, they're not really living in them, but they're supposed to go back through and update it if the meeting's taken place and put notes in, and they're just not doing it, right? So instead of going through, you can do that with some workflows in your PSA and kind of some automation there. Another thing that I gave as an example is when you're in your appointment type and workflow mode, there are time-based triggers. So there's before the appointment and there's after the appointment. And so with the before the appointment, when you can send your customers a reminder saying, hey, don't forget you have a meeting coming up in 30 minutes. Here's the button to join. You can also send with our Teams messaging integration, you can send your resources a chat bot through Teams that says, hey, you got a meeting coming up. Here's the ticket number, who you're meeting with, the description of the meeting. And you can also have it after the meeting time has taken place. We can't tell if your guys actually attended the meeting. So we have this blind spot there, but we can say, okay, they had a meeting scheduled. It ended 10 minutes ago. Send them a message through Teams that says, don't forget to update ticket number such and such, right? Because that meeting time has passed. These are things that you can, leverage TimeZest to do. You can also have it send out a survey to the customer after that scheduled time, right? So you could say, okay, 10 minutes after, send the trigger a reminder to the tech to update the ticket, and then trigger an email to go out to the customer asking them how their meeting was, right? So there is some more expansion on capabilities that you guys can take advantage of there than meets the eye, and happy to go through those things with you guys, trying to document as much as possible and make it easy for you guys to reference, but we're here to help. Any questions specifically about, it doesn't have to be about this topic, but in general about TimeZest that we can answer for you while we have the time here today? Give it a few moments here. So Andrew, how are things going at the event?
It's great. It's good. It's, always busy when we come to these events. We always run into this like 50-50 of customers that come by the booth wearing our swag and shirts and, excited and happy to see us and just chat about TimeZest, and then, potential new customers. So it's always a great balance of just getting to chat with, our current partners in the MSP space, and then creating new partners as well, and just bouncing off ideas and, like you said, things that how they're currently using TimeZest, and then how we can have a conversation after the conference and further that into more efficiencies. So it's always a good time.
Yeah, if you're there, stop by and talk to the team. It's a great, we look forward to it. So we do these webinars every month. You can ask Shannon, who's attending. She's great about it coming. But
Thanks, Shannon.
Yeah, she's great. But we'll post the next one. It's always the last week of the month. And they are announced in LinkedIn. If you're not following TimeZest on LinkedIn, I highly recommend it. Our team puts out some great information and blogs, and we share it there. Webinars, not just this webinar, but we also participate in conversations with other companies and other vendors in the space. So please, follow along there, engage with us. We're so grateful for you guys being a part of the continual improvements and development of TimeZest. So if you have any ideas for it, we have the feature request page. You can go there. You can see what we're working on the roadmap. Thank you. Words are hard. I saw Shannon send me a message. So custom calendar times. I'll answer this real quick and then we'll probably wrap it up. But is there a way to have custom times that block first or last hour lunch, but also looks at their MS or their 365 calendar? So yes, so this is a combination of two things, right? So if your team's using 365, we have the integration. You can set that up, and that allows us to read both your Outlook calendar and your PSA calendar at the same time. So there's this overlay going on, okay? And then you can block things out in Outlook if you would like, or we have custom availability, which I kind of mentioned at the beginning. So you can go into TimeZest, into your users, and there's this custom availability there where you can say, drag the time and say, okay, they start at 8, but we don't want them taking TimeZest meetings till 9. And, you can play with that and do big blocks, especially if you have someone who's really nervous about their day being filled with these firm appointments. You could say, okay, we're going to have 3 hours every day. This is what you can expect. And then the rest of the day, is just working on these other tickets that come in. So that's how you can kind of overlay that. To take it a step further, in the appointment types, it has custom availability as well. So if you want an appointment type that's for after hours appointments, you can say, okay, this appointment type can only be scheduled this shift or this time span, right? And so all of these, along with the settings of like minimum notice and buffers, all overlay to give the final availability to the customer. It is always going to respect what's on the calendar. So that's by default. If you have firm things on the calendar or even tentative, it's going to respect that unless otherwise selected. So I'm going to call it there. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. And we will see you next month. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joe. Yeah. Bye, everyone.
All right, you guys. Have a good one.